today we're joined by a man who's built more companies than most of us have vacation days, Don Williams. He's the founder of Micro Learning Academy, a platform that blends bite-sized learning and gamification to rapidly teach mastery in business and life. Today, we're unlocking what he calls the magic of mindset. Leadership trifecta: mindset, mission, and method. And we're going to be talking about the right attitude can be your company's greatest competitive advantage there. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to this character, Don Williams, who I treasure and have the pleasure of calling a friend for many years. Don, why don't you share a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go into how we help other companies.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. My name's Don Williams, and I am the founder of Don Williams Global and a bunch of other companies. And my newest venture is the Micro Learning Academy, where we do blend bite-sized learning and gamification to where you can master business and personal skills rapidly. And so I'm a 30-plus year entrepreneur, founded a dozen companies, some real winners, a couple stinkers, and some in the middle. And that's kind of how that goes. And then I currently help clients around the world grow their business by implementing proven skills that I basically learned with 30 years of working with the Fortune 500. And so I started out as a young guy, not knowing much, and I'm an older guy, and I've learned a couple things along the way.
Now, be honest, did you invent micro learning because your attention span couldn't survive a 2-hour session, guy?
Well, truth, and I think entrepreneurs, we know entrepreneurs are a little different, and that difference actually, has a clinical name. A very high percentage of entrepreneurs are neurodivergent, and so they are ADHD, ADD, dyslexic, scrapsic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I also believe that the human brain has kind of this infinite capacity to learn and to master. And so I think you can learn very difficult skills very quickly if the information is presented in the right way. Think back to the movie. What was the movie? Keanu Reeves, the big one. I can't think of it, but his girlfriend is learning how to fly a helicopter, like right before she gets on the helicopter. I don't know how to do it quite that fast, but I know that if you learn just a little bit every day, you have exponential benefits in your performance. And so that's why we launched the Micro Learning Academy, and it's got some great content, having great results.
Along that line, a few years ago for Jay, my wife's birthday, I surprised her and got her up about 5:30 in the morning, said, we're going on a trip. Where are we going? Said, just get dressed. How do I get dressed? Be casual. Well, I went over to the Fullerton Air Force Base, where she went through 4 hours of training of how to fly a combat plane. And then she spent the next 2.5 hours flying the combat plane. She had a co-pilot, but he took off and landed. She flew everywhere else. And she had 5 kills. And we have a video that has a lot of, as she was doing dives to 5Gs, chasing planes, etc. So that little bit of micro learning, that fit that very well. And to your helicopter analogy, I think it fits very well. What's the one small daily action, one small learning bite that you believe every CEO should be doing starting every morning to debunk the CEO misconceptions?
Maybe even before you get out of bed, and thank you for asking, this is a passion of mine, but maybe even before your feet hit the floor, regardless of your faith, I think you should begin your day with a declaration of gratitude. I'm grateful I woke up. I'm grateful I slept in a bed. Most of the world doesn't. I'm grateful for my home. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful that everything today is going to work out in its absolute best fashion for me. And so to me, a non-negotiable is start every day with gratitude. And if you can, do it before your feet hit the floor, before you make it to the bathroom, before you get that first cup of coffee. Just start there. And we'll talk a little bit more about this. But the interesting thing about gratitude is the more you practice gratitude, the more grateful you become. And the more grateful you become, the better your life will be. Period. Fact. It's science. Okay. So practice gratitude.
My tagline is regarding gratitude, as you well know. coming from Zig Ziglar quote. But you and I talked about the fact that the last podcast that we did, one of the scenes in that podcast now has over 8,800 views. I find that amazing. And the subject matter was gratitude at the time. How do you turn your life into a life of gratitude? And I think that's just a blessed way to start the gears. All right. Well, now that we've got the gears started, let's talk about moving it into a purpose. What's the best ever mission isn't just nice to have, it's mission critical. Why is having a crystal clear mission important?
So if I can, let me just kind of set the stage for leadership, what we're talking about today. So mindset, mission, and methods. So first off, there's a lot of different definitions of leaders, but I'll make it real simple for you. Leaders get results. No results, no leadership. Okay. Leaders get results. And there's a big difference between people who are in a position of leadership, they have a title, and people that are actually leaders. And some people who have the title are in fact leaders, but some people who have the title are not leaders. And some people who have no title are leaders. Okay. And then a leader by definition has to be going somewhere. They're en route. They're trying to hit a goal. They're going to a destination. And a leader, regardless of title or not, should be able to stop, turn around, look behind them, and there should be at least one person following them. And if there's not, I think by definition, they're not actually leading. They're wandering around in the wilderness by themselves, but you have to have a follower to actually be a leader. And to be a great leader, that follower is a leader themselves. Last thought, we hear this all the time. Good leaders, bad leaders. Good leaders, bad leaders. And I think those are redundant terms. I think a good leader is merely a leader. Okay. You don't need both terms. They're getting results. They're getting the job done. And I think a bad leader, I think those are redundant too. I don't think they're leaders. I think they're just bad. Okay. And I don't mean bad as people, but bad at their performance. And so leaders get results. Leaders have followers, and your best leaders may or may not have a title. And so you'll know them. You won't be able to deny it when you see them, when you talk with them. It will be obvious. And everybody is not, all leaders are not charismatic and gregarious and outgoing and charge the hill. That's not all of them. Okay. If you look at Steve Jobs, he wasn't really that kind of guy. And in fact, in some ways, he was kind of a prickly person. You know, he wasn't always nice to people, but they did understand what the mission was. Okay. There was no doubt he was going to build the finest technology company on the planet. Okay. And there was never any doubt about that. So did you ask me about mindset or mission?
Well, I got about mindset and the mission, but let's take that and let's say, okay, now let's get in the mess. We got a mindset. We have a mission. Let's get into the mess and the chaos and method of having to deal with that.
So methods or systems, okay, are required for anything but accidental growth. Okay. Some people operate in a vacuum of method and system. And if they scale their company, if they have great success, if they build a great family, okay, if they have a great marriage, if they have great friends, and leadership affects all of those areas of your life, it's almost accidental. They must have some methods. And method one would be being very clear on your mission. Okay. And so I'm going to bounce back. I'll come back to this in just a second, Paul. Method one would be very clear on your mission. And I think the best mission is I want to have the best quarter ever. I want to have the best year ever. I want the best marriage ever. I want the best relationship with my children ever. I want the best thing for this ministry ever. Okay. And I don't think that's arrogant. I don't think it's shooting too high. What it's saying is I want improvement, because that would be the best ever. Right. And so
it doesn't have to be the best ever of everything, but the best ever of your thing.
Absolutely. Okay. And so it kind of parallels. Zig used to have this saying. He talked about the old farmer who didn't want all the land. He just wanted the land that was next to his. And best ever is kind of that too. Okay. If I get the best ever quarter, What am I going to do next quarter? My goal is going to be for the best ever quarter, and so on. So first method is being dialed in on that mission, and whatever is your goal right now, I'm just telling you, you can leave this podcast, you can leave this post with, I'm going to have the best, insert your goal, ever. Okay. It's that simple. Okay. And typically it just takes a decision, and a decision happens like that. Okay. And so just decide. Once you have the mission, okay, as a leader, and remember, I don't think there's good leaders and bad leaders. Leaders are good. If they're getting results, they are good. So once I have the mission, my next step is to go get the best people. And when I was a kid, I would have said the best people in town. Okay. And, 20 years later, I would have said the best people in the state. But today I would tell you, get the best people on planet Earth, okay, to help you accomplish the mission. It is the who, not the what, okay? And great people get great results, okay? And so go get the best people. Local billionaire here in Fort Worth, and I was speaking with him one day. He was in the oil and gas business. When they sold it for 33 billion, okay, with a B. And he owned 97 hundredths of a point. And so when he tells that story, people go, oh, and he's like, well, don't feel too sorry for me. If you just round it to a full point, it's like $350 million. So don't feel too bad for me. But his theory on best people was get the best people on the planet and then pay them like they're the best people on the planet. And I can remember somebody asking him, well, how do you know if you're paying too much? And his answer was genius. He was like, you really can't pay the best people on the planet too much. They're going to see that you have a return. So methods, be rock solid on that mission. Wake up every day knowing what your mission is. Start every meeting with what your mission is. Tell everybody on your team 3 or 4 times a day what your mission is. When they laugh at you, tell them what the mission is. Don't stop. Be crystal clear. This is the mission. Then go get the best people on the planet to make that mission happen. And then the third method is this. You have to empower those people to do what's necessary to take the steps to make the mission not just a dream, but reality. And what that means is you can't make every decision. They can't come to you with everything. You can't have every creative idea on how to go forward. Okay. There is so much power in that collective brain trust of great people. Okay. Now, if your team is not comprised of great people, it's hard to get great results, great ideas, great creativity, great execution out of less than great people. Okay. But the 3 methods, be zeroed in, laser focused, just like that combat plane. Okay, they put the laser on, they know exactly where the missile's going to go. Be laser focused on your mission, get the best people on the planet to make that mission reality, and then give them the power to do the job. Get out of the way. And for some leaders, that means you have to actually stand up, remove your backside out of the chair, and let somebody else sit down. In my consulting practice, I see so many people and they're like, well, I don't have anybody to take over for me. And I'm like, when did you take a month vacation? Why, I couldn't take a month vacation. What would they do? And I was like, well, they wouldn't do a perfect job, but Mr. Client, Miss Client, let me tell you, you're not doing a perfect job either. So it'll just be a little different, imperfect. Okay.
Be reasonable. That's like I've given Jason more power than he probably wants sometimes. So I've empowered him, and sometimes it's like I don't want that, but at the same time, it goes into the great people. If you empower them with that, I agree with that. They will perform, and they're going to perform better on their own merit than on what you demand from them.
No doubt. Nobody likes to be, I mean, even though we're all different, we're all kind of the same because we're all humans. Okay. And so if I'm speaking and I hold my hands out like this, most people equate that with a hug. Okay. And so that's a warm feeling. All right. If I'm speaking or training and I'm in a room or I'm here and I point my finger at you, most people equate that with I'm in trouble and they don't like it. Okay. Give people the tools to do the job. And there's this kind of jokey colloquialism. what if we invest in our people and they leave? And the reply is, well, what if we don't invest in our people and they stay? And
Yeah,
the,
amen.
the reality is, man, get the best people, give them the best tools, okay? Remind them of the mission, okay? Talk the mission, 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 talk the mission. Okay, you cannot do the mission enough. And so I'll give you an example. Last fall in Fort Worth, you know, I live outside of Fort Worth, Texas, and we did an event, Fort Worth 2.5-day event. We brought in 600 attendees from all over the world, literally. Okay. This event has been done 200 or 300 times in the last 30 years. The day that they appointed me to chair the event, I said, our mission is to do the best event ever. And every huddle, every phone call, every meeting, every on-site, everything that we did, we started with, remember, we're here to do the best event ever. We raised $1.4 million. We spent every penny of it in 2.5 days pouring value into these 600 people. Most tickets sold ever. Most money raised ever. Highest score ever. And you know, depending on your faith, I'll say it like this: the universe will try and conspire to give you what your mission is if you're fervent enough about it. Literally 45 minutes into the event, people are still registering. It's the registration for the event. And literally people are coming up to me and we're knocking their socks off. Paul knows this. One of the things I really teach is the concept of wow. And so on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, wow starts at 11 and goes on to infinity. And I think as a leader, okay, you should always be aspiring for wow, always be walking on ground nobody's walked on. Okay. It's not good enough. If a client came to me and said, my goal is to grow 7% next year, I'm like, I'm not interested at all. Okay. That doesn't even feel like winning. That feels like an accident. I don't care how big you are. Okay. So let's set something that's a wow. So literally as these people are signing in, 600 people, we're handing each one of them a yellow rose because they're from all over the world. They don't know about yellow roses in Texas. And literally 45 minutes into the event, people are coming up to me and saying, Don, this is the best event ever. And not because the attendee heard it from us, but just because that's what they felt. Okay. And so it was our mission. We had 250 calls, 250 meetings. Okay. There's a lot of moving pieces when you do something like that. And we started everyone with best event ever. And so I want to encourage you, whether you're looking for new results in your family life, in your personal life, in your business life, or in all of those lives, it's not that hard. Decide, number one, you want it to be the best ever, and then get people to help. Get great people to help. Okay. Because none of us have all of the skills. Okay. Paul, I've known Paul for several years, many years, really. Okay.
We're getting old together, guys, so
Paul,
we got to watch out.
yeah. Well, we're not going to go that far. But anyhow, Paul is a financial genius. Okay. It's not my skill set. My skill set is leadership, influence, sales. It's not making people do things. It's making people want to do things, which is totally different. And so we make a great team because we're totally different people with totally different superpowers. And that's how the best teams work. And when that leader goes to get the best people on the planet, they're going to be very conscious about, I need somebody who's the opposite personality of me, and somebody who's the opposite personality of Sally, and somebody who's the opposite personality of Bob to build the very best team. Because shocker, okay, I'm going to admit this in front of 1 million people here, I'm not always right. I'm right a lot, but I'm not always right. And sometimes leaders get to thinking they're always right. And when you think about that for just a second, I think that's just human. You hear something and you say, oh, you hear something on the news about something political and you're like, oh, I like that, or I hate that, or that's good, or that's bad. And it's somewhere in there, but realizing that out of all human knowledge, no human knows even 1%, not even 1,000,000th of 1% of all human knowledge. So knowing that let's just say you do know 1,000,000th of 1% of all human knowledge, what's the odds of you being right? they're not good. They're bad. Okay. And so get other people, work with them in a atmosphere, in an environment where everybody's valued, where everybody can say what they really mean, what they really think, and then take a second, and sometimes as a leader, you have to make the call. That's okay. Okay. And I don't even apologize for it. As the leader, I communicate to my teams, there will be times when I will make a call that is contrary to what you think. I'm not doing it to hurt your feelings. I'm not doing it because I don't value your opinion. I'm doing it because my mission is to act in the way I think best after I've got all the information. And so you don't have to agree, but I do expect you to support me because it is my role.
And along that same line, you often start with the idea that success starts in the 6 inches between your ears. Let's talk about what you call the magic of mindset.
So your mind, and there's all kinds of different, you use 10% of your mind or 20% of your mind. I don't know what percent of your mind you use. I know you don't use very much of it, but I know this, that you don't, what was the Rolling Stones song? You
Get no satisfaction.
can't always get what you want, but if
there
you
you go.
try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. Okay. That's the Stone song. I'd change that just a little bit. I don't think you always get what you want. I think you almost always get what you expect. And so you should expect what you want. So I have a really good friend, genius sales guy, Matthew Pollard, born and raised in Australia. And I'm having lunch with him. He's in Dallas, Fort Worth 6 months ago. We're having lunch. And he said, I'm going to ask you a question. And I want you to answer it, not bad, not bad. I'm like, okay. And he said, how are you today, Don? I said, not bad, not bad. He said, how's that make you feel? And I said, not good. Okay. And he said, I'm going to ask you again, and you answer it how you would normally answer it. How are you today, Don? I'm blessed beyond measure, and it's getting better. He said, how's that make you feel? I'm like, that makes me feel pretty darn good. Okay. The universe, God, the world, you have to be very careful about what you think. Okay. If you expect to lose, I assure you, you will lose. If you expect to win, I assure you, you will win. Now let's talk about winning for a minute. Do I win at everything that comes across my desk, every deal I do? I already told you out of my 12 startups, I had a couple stinkers. I didn't win at everything. But it also depends on your definition of winning. Okay. I view life as a daily gratitude practitioner like this. I win or I learn. And learning is merely slower winning. Another way to say that is I'm blessed or I got a lesson. Okay. And so framing your mind to learn from those lessons and improve, unbelievable. And when you go build that team of the best people on the planet, you want to be sure, even if they have different personalities, even if they have different strengths, and I hope they do have different personalities and different strengths, the commonality is they expect to win. Okay. Makes all the difference in the world.
Just on a little bit of a quick lightning round here. What's your favorite learning app?
Can't help it. It's the microlearningacademy.com.
Well, I didn't mean to set you up for that, but that certainly works around there.
Well, I can't help it. The app takes things I've learned over the last 30 years and systematizes, turns it into a method. And so I just give you a quick, you log in. It's a mobile friendly application. So you can do it from desktop. It's a new mouth. I'm just trying it out.
Easy for you to say, bro.
Desktop, laptop, or your mobile. You log in. You get a piece of learning, 30 seconds, 60 seconds. It's not very long. When you're done, the app encourages you to teach the computer what did I just learn? Okay. And just tell it back to the app, which records it. And if you do that, it lets you play a game where you might win cash. Okay. And so what happens? We know there's a part of our brain called the reticular activator. And the best story, my youngest son, I I bought him a BMW M3 when he turned 16. He did not like it. You should always ask your kids what they want before you go buy. Okay. Now, the downside is I kept the car. I kept the sports car. Okay. So it wasn't the end of the world. Okay. But after we went through the big Bronco on the 35-inch, wheel, tires, and the 8-inch lift and all that jazz, he came to me one day and he said, "Hey, what I really want is I want a Volkswagen GTI." I was like, "I don't even know what that is. What's a Volkswagen? I know what a Volkswagen is. What's a GTI?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a little sedan, little coupe or sedan." And I'm like, "Well, let's go look at one." So we went and looked at one. I was like, "Okay, now I understand what it is." By the way, public service announcement: never buy a GTI for your teenage son. Probably not your teenage daughter either. Okay, very, very quick car, not 165 mile an hour car, but like it's just car off the line, fast, fast, fast. How? So he goes and shows me the car, and then as I'm driving down the road for the next couple of weeks, I see them everywhere. They're in traffic with me. They're in the parking lot. I mean, it's just like there's been a GTI explosion. Now, were there more GTIs on the road after I'd seen one than before? No. What happened is my brain woke up to that fact, and so it begins looking for that. And that's why you want to be sure that you have the proper mindset and that you have big goals, big aspirations, big things you want to accomplish, and that you're feeding that into your brain all the time, because your brain is going to wake up and say, "Oh, Paul wants the biggest quarter ever. Oh, Paul wants 20 new clients. Oh, Paul wants a customer satisfaction rating of 9.72. Oh, whatever." And so you want to be sure you're feeding that to your brain, because your brain is going to go to work for you even when you're asleep. Your subconscious, okay, which is where about 90% of your activity happens, your brain activity happens, is going to go to work for you trying to make that goal reality. And so you want to be sure you're thinking the right things.
What skill would you wish you could master in 5 minutes or less? What would you want to get out of this that you could master?
We don't offer this, okay, and I've already kind of hinted at one area where I'm not as strong. I'd love to be expert with a stranger's balance sheet and P&L. I'd love to do that. It's not my skill set, okay? When I started my first company in 1986, I didn't know what a P&L was. I didn't know what a balance sheet was. And after we closed the year, telling on myself here, what I did know how is I knew how to go get the money. I knew how to talk with people where they'd want to buy. And so when we closed the first year, it got to be about, I don't know, April something. And I went to find an accountant. So it's like I'm way after. I'm not ahead of the ball at all. I go to find an accountant. I say, "Hey, man, I need to do a tax return." I made money. I know that. Okay. I got pockets full of cash. I made money. And Jim Hall, never forget, he was an oil and gas attorney, accountant, but he had pity on me, and he said, "Well, Don, this is a C corp, and your tax return was due March 15th." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Tax returns are due April 15th." He's like, "Not this one." Okay, and so I literally knew nothing, and it's almost so bad I couldn't spell P and L, and there's only 5 letters in that, and so that's something I wish I knew. And how I've combated that is I've just been positive that I have great people on my team that understand that, and they don't teach me how to influence and lead people, and I don't teach them how to keep the books. And so
Well, with C-Suite support, we have this C-Suite Council with C-Suite Network. Well, in that network, there is an alliance of CEOs, and we meet once a month. And this is something I would bring up for your own thoughts as well. So we have basically a group of about 26 CEOs that cover all the spectrum of a company: CMO, CTO, EOS, HR, whatever there are needs for. We have actually 3 in there that buy and sell businesses, or they do evaluations for businesses. So it kind of is along the same line that I, Jason, my team, we don't know everything, but if we have alliances with people that can help us with that, or we can refer in, etc., And it's like one of the people in our group is a lady by the name of Linda Fisk. Linda Fisk heads up a group of just under 11,000 women CEOs that are paying members of her group to expand their business, their knowledge, and their jobs as well as life. So Linda is one of my favorite people. And Don, I'd love to introduce you to Linda. Even though she works with women CEOs, she also is a good person to know and help with any kind of deal that you would want to do. So I use that as an example. Or to sell a business. You bought and sold businesses yourself. You need that kind of expertise. Well, you learn. It's kind of like your 5-minute learning situation or the skill that you would like to know over time. We've done merger acquisitions. We've done quality of earnings, et cetera. So we learn about a lot of businesses.
I
That's
love that.
what you're saying. You're learning about businesses through sales.
I'd love to meet Linda. I'm very in touch with my feminine side. I've always thought, oh man, this is like big confession. I kind of prefer to work with women. Okay. I'm fairly intuitive and my EQ is fairly high. And just as a general rule, women's intuition and EQs are a little higher than men. And when I talk about getting like the best people on the planet on your team, that may not mean that they're W-2. That may mean that they're fractional CFO like Paul Whitley or fractional whatever like Linda. It also might mean that they're a contractor in Pakistan or wherever. Okay, when we talk about the best people on the planet, I would much rather, and I'll just tell you, the audience, if you wanted to hire Paul Whitley full time, that's really, really expensive. Okay. But in the fractional world, you can get a slice of somebody who's really, really full-time expensive for a fraction of that. And you get the same amount of expertise, the same amount of experience. Okay. But you don't have to buy the whole darn thing. And for many businesses, it doesn't make sense to add permanent people on staff when you can find a fractional solution. And so 5 years ago, Paul and I have known each other longer than that. 5 years ago, I had a group that I was advising and Paul helped, I don't know, a lot of them with PPP and with IDLE. Okay. And, at the end, now everybody knows about PPP and everybody knows about IDLE and everybody knows about the employee retention credit and everybody knows all that in 2025. Okay. But in April 2020, people couldn't spell PPP. People couldn't spell IDLE. Okay. Paul was read up on it like that. I made a phone call to him and said, I got a group of about 100 people need to know about this. Do you know? He's like, I know. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to start putting together some calls. Okay. And that group, I won't say they were the first in line to get their PPP loans.
You're darn close.
But they were really, really close. I mean, there's no way for me to verify it. Okay. But while the rest of the world is kind of still trying to figure it out, Paul had it figured out. Okay. Because he's an expert in that field. Okay. And my group, they went and got her done. Okay. And, when you have the right mindset, when you have the mission of best ever, and when you have the methods in place, execution happens almost automatically.
It does. And there is one of those individuals that's near and dear to both of our hearts was the first one to get a hold of me, or about the first one to get a hold of me. And that's before they started updating the rules. So we filed with the first set of rules that were out there. Well, when they updated the rules, it changed what the first filings were in his particular case, where he got $300,000 more on his PPP than he would have gotten after they put through the first set of rules. But it was grandfathered to him.
Yeah.
So he got the money and it's his. So it's like, okay, stay on top of it, move fast, and find people that can get it done for you.
Just a real life case study from our memory banks. That's 5 years ago now. of the benefits of getting the best people on the planet to help you achieve your mission. Okay. And I don't care if they're contractors. I don't care if they're in the US. I don't care if they're in the Ukraine. I don't care where they are. I don't care if they're black, brown, yellow, red, purple, lime, green. Okay. I frankly don't care if they're on Mars. If you can show me talent on Mars, I'm in for that too. Okay. But get the best people on earth to help you turn that mission from vision to reality.
How do you ensure consistent brand voice and values across teams while you're scaling rapid training as you do? You know, you and I'm again on the other side of that. You built teams, you speak with groups, you drive management teams. How do you get that brand voice and value across the team?
That's a great question. And the simple answer is you got to talk to them. You got to, if you want them to understand the brand voice, be the brand voice, not the brand book. Okay. Be the voice. So one of my companies, our client was GE Real Estate and GE Money. You know, GE had all these silos back in the Jack Welch days. And I don't even think they have money and real estate. I think they got rid of those. But I can remember, and we processed, $1 billion leads for real estate, people who wanted to build golf courses and hotels in Dubai. I mean, nobody financed bigger deals than GE. And so wanting to be sure that we stayed on brand, I was like, hey, can you send me your brand guidelines? Because they're outsourcing this function to us because we're the best people on the planet to get it done. Well, when they send me their brand guidelines, it's a 3-ring binder that's about 6 inches thick. I mean, it's got 500 or 600 pages in it. And after looking at it, this is back before large language models where you could just feed it in and say, give me a 2-page synopsis. Okay. So, basically it's like, okay, well, anything anybody wants to do, the answer is no. Okay. And so just know that whatever you want to do with the name GE, with the image of GE, the answer is no. But if you want people to maintain a consistent brand voice, you got to be a brand voice. And that means you got to use your voice. You got to tell people. Okay. And how many times do you tell people? You keep telling them till they laugh at you. And when they laugh at you, do you stop? Nope. You keep telling them. Okay. And do you think Steve Jobs ever, and he probably yelled and threw things. Okay. But do you think he ever quit communicating, we're building the finest technology company on the planet? He never did. Do you think he ever quit telling them we will have the best user experience? So I'm an Apple guy. I was like the last guy on the planet to go to Apple. I was always an Android and PC guy. And truthfully, my own personal opinion, I think Android and PC are much more powerful for a developer to use. But why does Apple have 50+% of the market? Because it's easy. And we're all looking for, in my consulting practice, we stand on 3 legs: easy, fast, smart. I'm not interested in anything that's too hard. You won't get it done. You won't execute if it's too hard. Okay. I want it simple. Okay. If it's complex, you probably can't make it work. And it needs to be smart. Okay. And if you run your plans through those filters, you'll be way more successful.
You reminded me that Jason loves my spreadsheets. He goes out of his way just to work on my spreadsheets, just so he can tell me, I don't like your spreadsheets. So I bring that too. And we need to go to some questions so that we can get ready to wrap up. But I know many of the things you and Tricia Benn need to be introduced personally, because you bring so much mindset that is international and at the GE level of quality. Tricia is at that same level and has been in her career. And she wants C-Suite Network to be better tomorrow than today. So when this is all over, I'm going to send you guys invitations. And Tricia, if there was ever a Hero Club member that you ever wanted to talk to, you're looking at him right here. So with that, Sarah, I'm going to open this up to you to whatever questions you have of Don. Can everybody unmute there?
Yeah, I just unmuted myself. Thank you so much. I have a bunch of questions, but I don't want to take up all the time. So I'll start with the one that's probably on the forefront of everybody's mind right now. So in your expertise, you've seen change being introduced when email came out. You were around when the internet was, advertised, and now we're in a digital transformation with AI, which is accelerating at a pace that most companies are not prepared for, I would say at this point. How do you see micro learning kind of in a parallel with the topic of AI, since it still, for a lot of people who don't have exposure to it, is this looming kind of almost a threat because it's unknown? How do you see that coming into play?
Here's a couple thoughts on AI and how it affects learning and how it affects micro learning. I'm not big on learning. I'm big on learning. I think you ought to be growing. Okay. But I also think you ought to do it the easiest, fastest, smartest way possible. Okay. And I will say this, if you're sitting on the sidelines and you're thinking, hey, AI is really changing things, it's really going fast, you have no idea. Your wildest dreams, it's already past that. Okay. And it's just, you know, geometrically progressing. Arithmetic is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Geometric is 5, 10, 15, 25, 50, etc. Okay. And so it's unbelievable how fast it's going. Now, the good news is this. If I was really motivated about it, or if I was, let me restate that. If I was a little more motivated about it, I could go into ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini or any of the large language models, and I could tell it, give me a 30-day crash course for a 35-year entrepreneur to be more versed in basic business financials, a P&L and balance sheet, and it would tell me what to do for the next 30 days.
Sure.
Okay, and anybody could do that. Okay, and if you're not using AI in that manner, man, I want to encourage you, when you're done with this call, go log in to any free account and ask it something like that. You'll be amazed. And so I think where the real benefit happens is this, and this is a long prompt. So when I first started, my prompts were a sentence, then they got to be a paragraph, then they got to be 2 or 3 paragraphs, and now I'm up to 2 or 3 pages. Okay. Because even though I'm really well read, I've read maybe 5,000 books in my life, and that's a lot. It's read 500 million. And I have like 1% retention or whatever I have. It has 100% retention. It's literally unbelievable. Okay? It's not actually thinking. Okay. It's not actually intelligent. What it is that it's been fed massive amounts of data because it's a machine. Okay. Machine learning. You've heard that term. Because it's a machine, it recognizes patterns so much faster than the human brain. And so if you ask it about, if I wanted to go to medical school and learn how to be a heart surgeon, what would the steps I would take? It would tell you, because it's read the books. It's gone to med school. Okay. And a human just can't do it. And so I guess that's a long answer to a very short question. I'm sorry, Sarah.
No, it's okay. Actually, I have one more, but I want to give you enough time to.
Well, I'll wrap this up. So
Yeah.
if you think it's going fast, I assure you it's going 100, not 2 times, not 5 times, 100 or 1,000 times faster. And so start today.
Thank you.
Jason, have you got a question?
There we go. I was just going to ask Don if you could recount maybe one of your toughest clients, what the issue was and how you handled it.
The toughest clients, and I'll be a little more general, but the toughest clients are clients that want a mission accomplished, yet won't authorize you to take the steps necessary to accomplish the mission, and are not open to discussing the option. And to me, those are the toughest clients. And we almost always fire those clients. Life is too short. If I needed heart surgery, I would not go to the heart surgeon and tell him how to do surgery. Okay. Do I know everything? No. Does my company, are we excellent at everything? No. But what we're very good at, we are expert at. And if you hire us, you should, and we'll disclose everything. I mean, we'll want you to, kiss the plan before we start. Okay. But we are going to hit the objective, or we're going to die trying. We're never going to come back and say, oh, we didn't get it and we don't really know what to do. That is never going to happen at any Don Williams company. That is not a wow. And so the toughest clients are ones who have a goal and then, for whatever reason, are not open-minded enough to listen to the solution. And so there's no empowerment. It's like we went and got the best people on the planet, but we won't let them do their job. You're like, well, that won't work.
No doubt. Jason, can you relate to that in a conversation that you and I had earlier today about two different potential clients? They just want the world and they won't give us the empowerment to get it done. What are your thoughts, Jason?
I think at some point you have to cut bait. I'd sent a lot of conversations over the course of probably 6 weeks, looked at a lot of data for free, sent them an SOW, pretty high level, but it had to be low level enough so they could understand what we were going to do. And I firmly believe they took that and are using it to fix it on their own. The conversation, they're on a tight deadline for tax purposes, and talked to them yesterday, and they're putting me off. And I told Paul this morning, I think it's time to cut bait on them.
All right. Well, at this point, we're going to need to wrap up. Tricia, would you wrap it up and explain to everybody what we can do? I think we got pretty close to the 48 minutes for Jeffrey and his TV group before we got to the question. So we'll see if we've got something going here.
I do have one quick question, Paul.
Sure.
My question, Don, is just for everybody who's fractional, for everyone who's, speaker, author, consultant, coach, community leader, there's one massive pain point, and that's 1 unit of time equaling 1 unit of money. And so the challenge is always, how do you have 1 unit of time equal more units of money? And also, obviously, the stability that, if you're sick, you're on vacation, your family needs you, you want to explore something else, there's the ability to do that. And so I'm just curious what your best advice, with building out as you have, extraordinarily, what's your best advice for other fractionals in terms of how they're delivering on that in their own business model so that they can continue to create and deliver the success like you're committed to doing with your area of excellence?
That is an unbelievably great question. And I'll give you the short and the long answer. So the short answer is quit selling your time. Okay. And most consultants, most coaches, they sell by the hour, by the day, by the week, by the month, but literally their pricing model is X amount of time for Y amount of dollars. And so if you sell with that pricing model, you'll always be chained to a clock. Who wants to be chained? There's things I want to be chained. I like to be chained to a beach in the Caribbean or anywhere. There's things I want to be chained to, but a clock is not one of them. And so it's not that hard. And here's why they do that. They look at, what is my cost of goods? What is my cost to provide it? What's a reasonable markup? And here's what I'll sell it for. And that's probably in Business 101 at Harvard. Look at your cost, figure your markup, do your price. But they're academians. They're not business people. And so the better way to price your product, service, or experience is, what's the value that I provide and what's a reasonable price for that value. And I think value prop, basically that's what we're talking about. I think value prop should be this dramatic. When I've explained the value that I'm going to deliver you, and then I've told you how much money I require to do that, I literally want your attitude I want you to look in your wallet, look in your purse, look in your checkbook, look on your balance sheet, Paul. I want you to look at your money, and I want you to say, my money is worth dirt. Take my money. I'm throwing it at you. Give me the value. I want the value far more than I want the dollars.
Yes. How
And so,
expensive are the potholes, right? That's another
yeah,
whole piece of the value. I know we're running out of time, but I so appreciate that answer. And I think it's so important that we're supporting that in how we deliver value and see people truly succeed, as opposed to sort of punching a clock or checking a checklist. That doesn't much matter in business, to all of the points you've shared.